In this lesson, we want to talk about curve fitting, and specifically here, we're going to be finding the equation of a parabola given 3 points on the parabola. All right, so in the last lesson, we reviewed how to solve a linear system in 3 variables. Again, if you're in this course, that's nothing new for you. You've been doing that, since Algebra 1 in most cases. You definitely did it in Algebra 2. Okay, so that was nothing new. So when you're in this section and you're talking about systems and you're talking about matrices, you're going to get a lot of different application problems kind of thrown at you. So these might be word problems or something related, or even something like this where we're told to find the equation of a parabola given 3 points on the parabola. Okay, and we want this equation in standard form. So we want it in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and again, we're given these 3 points that lie on the parabola. So remember, these are x comma y values, okay, that we're given. These are x comma y values. So this is pretty easy to do. All I'm going to do is set up 3 equations, okay, so that I can solve for the 3 unknowns. The 3 unknowns are going to be the a, the b, and the c here that I'm going to need to write this equation, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rewrite this. Let's just say it's y equals, we've got ax squared plus bx plus c. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in for x and y. And we're going to do that 3 times. So let me erase this. And let me just put some parentheses. And I'm just going to be doing some plugging in. And let me erase this and put some parentheses. And to make this really easy, I'm going to highlight where I'm plugging in x with a yellow. Okay. And I'm going to highlight where I'm plugging in a y with a kind of blue. Maybe it's a light blue. I'm not sure the official color on that. So let me highlight this. And then let's go through and do this. So y gets plugged in here, right? Because it's y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So y is all the way to the left. So I'm going to plug a 5 in there. Then this equals, we have a times, there's an x that goes in here. So that's going to be 1, and then that's squared. Then plus b times, again, you have an x that goes there. So that's going to be a 1, and then plus c. Okay, so that's your first equation. So for this guy, it's going to be 29 for y, and it equals a times, in my parentheses, I'd have -2, and that's squared, and then plus b times, again, I'm going to have -2, and then plus c. And then for my third equation, my final equation, again, I do the same thing. So y is 9, so 9 is going to go out here, and this equals, you have a times, in the parentheses, I'm going to have a 2, this is squared, then plus b times, again, I'm going to put a 2, and then plus c. So let's copy this real quick, and let's go to a fresh sheet. So we have some room to work. Okay, and I'm just going to rearrange this a little bit. So I'm going to simplify some things. So I'm going to say equation 1. I know that 1 squared is 1, so this would just be a, and then plus b times 1 is just b, and then plus c, and this equals, we have 5. Okay, so that's my equation 1. So let me just erase this from here. I don't need it anymore. And then for equation 2, I have -2 squared, which is 4, then times a, and then plus -2 times b, so I can just put -2b if you want. And then I have plus c, and of course this equals 29. And so let's erase this, we're done with that. And then now for equation 3, I have this guy, 2 squared is 4, then times a, and then I have 2 times b, which is 2b, so plus 2b, and then plus c, and this equals 9. Okay, so I have my 3 equations, 3 unknowns. Pretty easy to solve for this. So let me scooch this up and let's get started. All right, so we know from the last lesson that all we need to do is take kind of 2 equations from this system, pick a variable and eliminate it. Okay, that's how we kind of get the ball rolling. And what I want to do, I'm going to look at equation 1 and 2. It's probably easiest here to eliminate c. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply equation 1 by -1. Okay, and then I'm going to add that to equation 2, okay? Because what I'm going to do, if I multiply equation 1 by -1, this is going to end up being a -c there, okay? And then -c and +c, those are going to cancel. All right, so -1 multiplied by equation 1 would be -a minus b minus c equals -5, okay? I just multiplied everything by -1, so it just changed the sign of each term. That's all it did. Then for equation 2, we keep that as it is, so 4a minus 2b plus c equals 29. And then we're going to add these 2 equations together. So remember, when we do this, we're adding the 2 left sides together, and we're setting this equal to the sum of the 2 right sides. Now, in order for this to work, you have to have your equations in the format where the variables you're working with are on one side and the number, the constant, is on the other, okay? So you see how I have all my variable terms, my terms with the a, the b, and the c involved. That's all on the left, and the constant's on the right. So you want to set it up that way. All right, so if I add negative a plus 4a, I'm going to get 3a. Then negative b plus negative 2b would be minus 3b. Then negative c plus c, we know this would cancel. And this equals negative 5 plus 29 would be 24. So let's call this equation 4. And I'll say this is 3a minus 3b is equal to 24. So let's erase all this. We don't need any of this anymore. And now let's pick two other equations. It can't be 1 and 2 because we already used those. So any two other equations, we could do 1 and 3 or 2 and 3. And we want to eliminate the same variable. So we want to eliminate c again. And that's pretty easy to do. So if I pick 2 and 3, let's just go with that. If I multiply equation 2 by negative 1, I'd have negative 4a plus 2b minus c equals negative 29. And then for equation 3, I'll just keep it as it is. So 4a, and then we're going to have plus 2b, and then plus c, and this equals 9. Okay? So when we do this, we get an even easier situation. This is going to cancel, and so is this. So I get 2b plus 2b, which is 4b. And this is equal to negative 29 plus 9 is negative 20. So for equation 5, I get 4b is equal to negative 20. And let me erase this real quick. This one just happens to be much easier to work with. If I divide both sides by 4, I find that b is equal to negative 5. Okay, so I've already got one value. B is negative 5. I can plug that back in here in equation 4, and I can figure out what a is. So I would have 3a minus 3 times, plug in a negative 5 for b. So plug in a negative 5 there. And this equals 24. Okay, so what we'll do, we have 3a. And then negative 3 times negative 5 is plus 15. And this equals 24. Okay, so if I subtract 15 away from each side of the equation, let me kind of do this up here. We're going to have 3a is equal to 24 minus 15 is going to be 9. Divide both sides by 3, and we find that a is equal to 3. Okay, so my board's getting kind of busy, so let me erase some stuff. So at this point, I know that a is equal to 3, and that b is equal to negative 5. So what is c? C equals what? Well, I can find c by just plugging back into either equation 1, 2, or 3. It's easiest to work with equation 1. So let me plug in a 3 for a and a negative 5 for b. What would that give me? So you would have 3 plus negative 5 plus c equals 5. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. So you'd have negative 2 plus c equals 5. If I add 2 to both sides of the equation, I get c is equal to 7. So now I have enough information to write the equation of this parabola in standard form. So let me just copy this and go back up. So we have that a is 3, b is negative 5, and c is 7. So just plug into your standard form. We have y is equal to, for a, I'm going to put a 3, and then times x squared, then plus. Then for b, it's negative 5. So instead of plus, let me just put minus 5 here, and then times x, and then plus c, and c, of course, is 7. So the equation is y equals 3x squared minus 5x plus 7. If you wanted to check this, you could plug in for x and y and verify that you get a true statement in each case. I've already done this. I know that it works out. But again, just to do one of them, you could plug in a 1 for each x and a 5 for the y, okay, and verify you get a true statement. 1 squared is 1, so 1 times 3 would be 3. And then 5 times 1 is 5, so minus 5 plus 7. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 7 is 5. So we would have 5 equals 5, which is true, okay? So we know this one works. Again, I'll leave it up to you to check these other two, but I can tell you right now I've already checked them, and they do work. So our equation is going to be y equals 3x squared minus 5x plus 7. All right, so let's look at another example. So again, we have our y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And now we're given the points 1, 6, negative 1, 2, and negative 2, 15. So again, the same process. We're going to say that y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And we're just going to plug in for x and y, again, using this data from the points. So for the first one, again, if I'm plugging in for x, we have an x comma y. The x is 1, so that's 1, and the y is 6, so let's put a 6 there. Then for the next one, you would have a 2 for your y, and then your x would be -1. Okay, so let's fill that out. And then for the last one, your y would be 15, and your x would now be -2. Okay, so let's copy this and go to a fresh sheet. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sense of this real quick. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times a is just a. 1 times b is just b, so that's fine like it is. So we would have a plus b plus c, and let's just put equals 6 like this. And I can clean that up and make it look a little nicer. So for 1, we have a plus b plus c equals 6. All right, for this second one, -1 squared is 1. 1 times a is just itself. -1 times b would just be minus b, and then you have plus c. And of course you have this equals, you have this 2 over here. So let me move that over here. We'll say that a minus b plus c, a minus b plus c is equal to 2. So this will be my equation 2, okay? Then for equation 3, you have -2 squared, which is 4. So this would be 4a. You have -2 times b, which is minus 2b. So minus 2b. And then you just have plus c, so plus c. Then let me just move this over here. So I'm going to erase this and put equals 15 like this. So this will be my equation 3. Okay, so we can just pick a variable to eliminate. Again, you can do c, b, or a, whatever you want to do. C looks like it's pretty easy. You have a coefficient of 1 in each case. B is also pretty easy as well. So let's just use b to kind of change things up. So if I eliminate b from using equation 1 and 2, what I would do is just add 1 and 2 together, right? Because I have opposite coefficients on b here and here, right? So I have a 1b and a -1b there. So I can just add the two equations together and get equation 4. So a plus a is 2a, and then 1b plus -1b, that's going to cancel. C plus c is 2c, so plus 2c. And this equals 6 plus 2 is going to be 8. Now, I can simplify the equation because everything's divisible by 2. So if I divide 2a by 2, I get a. If I divide 2c by 2, I get c. And if I divide 8 by 2, I get 4. So a plus c equals 4. A plus c equals 4. All right, for equation 5, let's just go through and get this from equation 1 and equation 3. Okay, so I'm going to multiply equation 1 by 2. So I would get 2a plus 2b plus 2c equals 12. Okay, and then for equation 3, I'm going to leave it as is. So 4a minus 2b plus c, and this equals 15. Okay, so the reason I multiplied equation 1 by 2 is so I can have opposite coefficients here. I've got a plus 2b and I've got a minus 2b. Okay, so those are going to cancel. So 2a plus 4a is going to give me 6a. These again are going to cancel. 2c plus c is going to be 3c. And then 12 plus 15 is going to give me 27. Okay, now each part here is divisible by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Okay, so let's erase this. Now we can solve this system pretty easily, either using substitution or elimination. Let's just use substitution. That looks pretty easy. So I'm going to solve equation 4 for a. So I'm going to say that it's a is equal to, subtract c away from each side of the equation, so -c plus 4. I'm going to plug in for a in this equation 5. Okay, so this right here, that's what a is equal to. That's what I'm going to plug in for right there. So I would have 2 times this quantity here, -c plus 4, okay? Just plug it in there, then plus c equals 9. Let me scroll down real quick and get some room. So 2 times -c is -2c, plus 2 times 4 is 8, then plus c equals 9. -2c plus c is going to be -c, and then plus 8 equals 9. Subtract 8 away from each side of the equation. You can basically just erase it here and just say this is a 1. So to finish this up, we can divide both sides by -1, and we'll find that c is equal to -1. So that's our answer for c. So let me erase all this. So I'm going to say that c is equal to -1. And then I can plug in for equation 4 or 5, doesn't matter, figure out what a is. So let me use equation 4 because it's a little bit easier. If I plug in a -1 for c, I'd have a, you could basically say -1 equals 4. Add 1 to both sides, and you'll find out that a is equal to 5. So now we have c and we have a. We need to find b. Okay, so b is still unknown. I can get rid of this. I don't need that information anymore. Let me scooch this up. And so what I'm going to do is plug into, again, either 1, 2, or 3, doesn't matter, figure out what b is. So the easiest equation looks like equation 1. So I have an a value of 5 plus b plus a c value of -1, so let's just write -1. And this equals 6. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So we'll say that this is b plus 4. And I'm going to go ahead and just subtract 4 away from each side of the equation and find that b is equal to 2. Okay, so b is 2. All right, so let's grab these values and go back up. Okay, so plugging back in here, we have y is equal to, for a, we have 5, so 5, and then you have your x squared. And then plus for b, we have 2, so times x. And then for c, we have -1, so -1. So the equation of the parabola that passes through these 3 points would be y equals 5x squared plus 2x minus 1. Again, you could check this. You could take these points, plug them in, and see if you get a true statement. You should for every scenario. I advise you to pause the video and check. I've already done that. I know this is the correct solution. All right, let's look at one more problem. And for this one, I'm going to kind of give you a spin on this. Suppose you have a sideways parabola, okay? You know, if you get something like x equals y squared, this is a sideways parabola, okay? So we have x equals, we have ay squared plus by plus c, and we have 3 points that are on this parabola, this sideways parabola, okay? So we're going to solve and figure out what this equation is going to look like. The parabola that goes through these points, again, this one's going to be a sideways parabola. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I've got to kind of change up what I do. Normally I take my y value and put it out on the left, but now I'm going to take my x value and do that. So I'm going to take this x value of 4, okay, because x is on the left here. And this equals, you have a times, for y, I'm now going to plug in a 2, okay, that's going to be squared. And then plus b times, for y, I have a 2 again, and then plus my c, okay? And I'm going to do this again, so I'm going to have my 12, that's my x value, equals a times, I've got my -2, that's going to be squared. Again, that's my y value, then plus, I've got b times my -2, and then plus c, okay? So you're just switching what you're doing. Normally you have your x's going here and here, and your y here. Now that's flipped, right? Now your x goes over here, your y goes here and here. Okay, so one more, we have our -3 that goes here. This equals a times, again, plug in the y here, so 1 squared, then plus b times 1, and then plus c. So let's copy this. We'll come back up, get a nice fresh sheet going. Again, 2 squared is 4, so this would be 4a. So let's put 4a, and then 2 times b is 2b, so plus 2b, and then plus c. Okay, so plus c. And let me put equals 4 on this side. I can erase it from here. And let's go ahead and just label this as equation 1. Okay, let me kind of slide this down, save a little room. And we'll slide this down a little bit more. Okay, so for the next one, -2 squared is going to be 4. So we'd have 4a. And then -2 times b is -2b. So we'll put -2b. And then we have plus c. So let's put plus c. And of course, this equals 12. We'll just erase it from over here. So this is going to be equation 2. And let me just kind of slide this one down. Okay, so one more to do. So we have 1 squared, which is 1. You can just get rid of that. 1 times b is just b, so you get rid of that. So you have a plus b plus c, so a plus b plus c. And this equals -3. So let's get rid of this. Let's put this as equation 3, and let's slide this down. Okay, so what variable do we want to eliminate? Again, it's pretty easy to do b. It's also pretty easy to do c. A looks like it's a little bit more work, but even that's pretty easy. So let's just go ahead and eliminate the variable b. So I can go through with the first 2 equations, and I can just add them, okay? Because I have 2b and -2b. So 4a plus 4a is 8a. So this is 8a. And then 2b plus -2b, that's going to cancel. And then c plus c is 2c. And then 4 plus 12 is 16. Again, I can simplify this, divide each part here by 2. A divided by 2 is 4, so 4a. Plus 2 divided by 2 is 1, so just c. And this equals 16 divided by 2 is 8, okay? Then for equation 5, let's get that from 2 and 3, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply equation 3 by +2 so that I can have opposite coefficients on that variable b, okay? So if I multiply equation 3 by 2, I'd have 2a plus 2b plus 2c equals -6. Again, I just multiplied everything by 2. Then I keep equation 2 as is, so 4a minus 2b plus c equals 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the left sides, set this equal to the sum of the right sides. 2a plus 4a is 6a. Then 2b minus 2b, that's gone. 2c plus c is plus 3c. And then negative 6 plus 12 is 6. Okay, so let's erase this. We don't need this anymore. And again, we see that we could simplify this. We could divide each part by 3. So this would be 2a plus c equals 2. All right, so let me erase this and write this just as 4a plus c equals 8. And let me erase this and just kind of drag this up. Again, it's 2a plus c equals 2. So we can just use substitution here. I know that I can solve this guy for c. I say c is equal to, subtract 2a away from each side, so negative 2a plus 2, and then plug this in for c here. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Plugging this in, because c is equal to this, in there. So what we're going to have is that 4a plus, we'll plug this in for c, so negative 2a plus 2, and this is equal to 8. Okay, so I can just drop these parentheses. They don't really do anything here. So 4a minus 2a is just going to be 2a. And if I subtract 2 away from each side, this would go away and this would be 6. Divide both sides by 2, and I'm going to find that a is equal to 3. Okay, so a is 3. I can erase all this, and I'll just write that over here for now. So a equals 3. Plug that in equation 5. Plug in a 3 there, and you'll see that 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 plus c is equal to 2. If I subtract 6 away from each side of the equation, I'll find that c is equal to 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Okay, so let's erase these. We don't need this information anymore. And we're just going to write this up here and say that a is equal to 3 and c is equal to negative 4. Let's erase this. And now let's just go ahead and plug in and find out what b is. So b is our unknown. So let's plug into equation 3. That's the easiest. So I'm going to plug in a 3 there. I'm going to plug in a negative 4 there. So I already know that 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So let me just write this as b minus 1 equals negative 3. Add 1 to each side of the equation, and I'll find that b is equal to negative 2. Okay, so let's put a negative 2 there. And let's just copy this real quick and go back up. So we'll copy these values. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our equation. So we have x now. Remember, this is different. This is a sideways parabola. So x is going to be equal to, for a, we have 3. Then times y squared, then plus, for b, we have negative 2. So let me just write minus 2. So minus 2 times y. And then for c, we have negative 4, so minus 4. Okay, so x equals 3y squared minus 2y minus 4. So you just want to pay close attention to the problem they give you. This is much less common, but you might get it. So just pay attention to the equation you get. If you're told that the 3 points lie on the parabola and the equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, do what we did in the first 2 problems. If you get a sideways parabola, again, like this one, where x is equal to ay squared plus by plus c, again, you want to follow this format when you write your equation.